Okay, here I am cruising into the day 16 evening, end of day, end of my eating journey and my eating journal. I started out good with oatmeal and I had a peach, chopped up a peach, that was good. And then I went back to sleep, and when I woke up, it was about time for lunch. And I thought, what do I want for lunch? And I thought, oh, I'd like to go to the local brunch. But I didn't have anything prepared, so I thought, oh no, I know what I'll do. I'll cook some rice. I have my rice maker, and I put my basmati rice in there, and it made it very quickly. I'm going to call my friend, or she Facebook messaged me, and I asked her if she wanted to go to the brunch with me, and she did. So we went over there, and they have a very healthy, so it's like a very healthy, very extensive potluck. I mean, there are probably 50 people there, and people bring very healthy rice, dal. What else did they have? A nice salad. We got there a little late, so some of the better, stuff was gone. But one woman had beautiful kale chips from her garden, not kale chips, kale leaves from her garden, and then there was a little dressing with that I put on it, and it was just really nice, and I didn't take too much, just a little platter, and I was busy talking and socializing with people. And then somebody came around, they offered like a strawberry rhubarb pie. It was somebody's birthday. And I you know, I really don't like being put in that position where somebody offers you something, and if you take it, it's like a gift to them, like they want you to take it to join in and to be part of. And I hate to say no. My inclination is to say, oh yeah, I'll take a piece, but no. And there are plenty of people, so I knew that he'd be able to go onto another table, and somebody would eat it. Um, but I went back to put my dish away when I was done, and I saw that they had watermelon, and somebody had put fennel seeds on it, kind of a licorice, that licorice flavor, and little chopped watermelon. And boy, was that a nice little dessert. So that was fine. I did that, and then I went home, and oh, what else did I do? This, that, and the other thing. And eventually I thought, well, I need a little more. So I took some of the rice that I brought home, and I had fresh radishes from my garden that I had actually left in the car all night. I think a few of them got kind of soggy. They were so crisp and fresh when I got them out of the garden. I chopped up fresh radishes. I needed a scallion, and I have some scallions in my backyard. I kind of planted them. They keep coming up, which is nice. And I took a couple of scallions fresh, and I just chopped them up. I had a cucumber. I chopped up a cucumber, put some of my pickled ginger in, wasabi, soy sauce, and it was just a really nice little platter. Just something to, round out the the meal basically, and so that was very good. And then I went for a walk with my friend. She called, and it's a beautiful day. It wasn't too hot, probably in the 80s, and I wasn't feeling peppy, but I thought, well, I'd like to take a walk with my friend, walk and talk. So I went, and I was dragging, but it's good for me. It's good for me to kind of extend. I hadn't done any yoga, didn't do any working in the garden. And then I meditated, and when I came home, I did need to dig in my yard a little bit. I want to plant some of these tomatoes I have left, and I have so much like cow manure, sand, garden soil that are like little bags of the stuff, and I really would like to just dig up some soil, mix it all together, and get these tomatoes into the ground. So I did a little bit on that, and then I went to Walmart, and I got a few things I needed. Some fresh fruit. Oh yes, I know. Because I had had that delicious chocolate cake the other day, and I was even telling my friend when we were on our walk about, eating that chocolate cake, and I get like dancing sugar plum fairies dancing around my head when I talk about that stuff. And she reminded me that there's a chocolate mousse filling in it because it comes from this particular restaurant and their famous chocolate cake. And I had been thinking I wanted to make some chocolate mousse because I had a little tofu left over, and I have a recipe made with tofu that is actually extremely legal and extremely tasty. And what I like to do is make some of this chocolate mousse and then add fresh fruit to it, like fresh raspberries and blueberries, and you mix it all up together. And it is a magnificent dessert. And what it is tofu, which, is very legal. I took some dates, I put them in there. I put a little oat milk in there. I took the swerve brown sugar. I took some of the other sugar substitute and put it in there. What else did I put in there? Was there any other important ingredient? Oh yes, I melted some unsweetened baker's chocolate, and I put about a tablespoon and a half of just cocoa powder. It called for vanilla, but I didn't have any vanilla. And I just put it in the blender, the food processor, and I just kept blending it because the tofu that I had some silken tofu, and then I had some extra firm tofu. So, and I added them together, and the extra firm needed a lot more blending, but it came up with a nice, creamy, a very moussey kind of consistency. And I added a couple more dates at the end to give it more sweetening. Boy, is that good. And I ate a lot of it. I ate two little servings of it. And then when I cleaned the bowl, I had extra that I scooped out of the food processor. And then I have two little ramekins that I have in plastic in the refrigerator. And it's just such a nice little thing. What I'll do is just make a heaping tablespoon of mousse and some fresh fruit, especially berries. And boy, is that good. And I have some fresh mulberries that are coming in from my tree and some cherries in the back. So I have some more fruit in my yard, which is, it's something I always wanted to do, and I have it. So it's great. And the mulberries is the kind of thing where they come in all at once and there's a lot of them. So I have to take a couple of hours and just say, okay, now you're picking mulberries. And what I do is I put a sheet down and shake the tree. It falls on the sheet. That's a really good way to do it. So, and I had, when I got home from program, I had a little bit of my pasta vegetable dish, but not a lot, with cheese sauce. I put it in the air fryer, just a small little ramekin. And so basically the mousse was my dinner, pretty much. And it was a grand dinner. I'm on day 16 now. I start to slowly slide. But I'm so happy to know that on the 28th, I will be back on the juice fast, which is great. When I was at Walmart, I had my cargo pants on, and I felt very slender in them, which is good. But I have room to improve. So things are going very well on the food arena. Oh yes, I sat down at the brunch, and there was a man there talking about how he just had lost 40 pounds since last March, and I've lost 25 to 30. And he is on a program where they actually send him all his food, and he eats a certain amount of bars and one meal. And I think it's kind of a keto-ish program. But I asked, somebody asked him if it was expensive, and he said yes. And so I think it's really expensive. And we all talked about how much attention it takes to lose weight, because my friend I went to the brunch with, she's always either on a diet or off a diet, but very focused on food, because she does have a bit of a weight problem and always has. But sitting next to him, while I was eating actually helped. And then I was talking to this other couple. The wife is very lean, and we were talking about how the idea of what's normal weight has shifted in our culture. There was another guy at the other table who was very thin, and he talked about how that happened, and he ended up losing a lot of weight when he was younger, and he just has never been able to gain it back, which is actually a good thing because he's a little guy, and I've always thought he's pretty much normally sized. But it's a big topic. You know, it's something that I think deserves more attention in the culture. I think what deserves more attention is how difficult it is to take the weight off if you gain it, rather than constantly pushing advertising very fattening food 24/7 and not explaining to the public kind of in a general health service messages constantly that every pound you put on, you're going to have to work to get it off. And this guy that lost the 40 pounds, there were some people in his group. I think they have like support groups online. Some of them had lost like 100 pounds in the past year. That's quite an accomplishment, but it does take all of one's focus. One has got to be extremely one-pointed. So that's it for my physiology report in June of 2022, day 16.